So we are here to ask hard-hitting questions like, why so many butts in the movie? We just watched The Substance. I am AJ Amber.
I'm Zane.
And I'm Daisy.
My mom.
I'll go first.
Okay.
My overall feelings were I love the styling of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The colors, just everything about it I thought was quite cool. Well, it was gross. I think that can be agreed upon by everyone.
Yeah.
And I really hated the end of it. But I thought that it had an awesome message and it was just the right amount of weirdness for me.
That said, you did not watch the last 20 minutes,
That is true.
which is, I think, the perfect amount of weirdness. Then you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was too weird before then.
Yeah. And then you had to wander off and I said, fair enough. And then I just kind of told you the very end.
Right.
Which is all you need. I think
it
would
was
have...
only 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay, maybe it was 10, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have rather watched it that way. You're Demi Moore's age.
Yep.
And so, I can cut that out if you want, but I'm wondering...
I'm proud of it.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because the only option is you age or we're dead. So I feel like aging's the victory there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But
it is hard to get your head around loving who you are today.
Yeah. I'm wondering, did the movie have a certain significance to you?
It was a really important subject to be addressed. But it's just to illustrate the point that I feel like a lot of young girls are spending countless hours wishing that they were something that they weren't. And when they are 30 or 40 or 50, they're gonna go, shit, I spent all that time wishing I was skinnier, wishing I was taller, wishing I was whatever. And it's just it's a sad commentary on how women and girls waste their lives.
I am going to ask the question of the ages with this movie. Why so many butts? Butts were like juxtaposed. They were emphasized. Chicken legs tried to come out of them. Do we think there's a reason? Or
was it just titillation?
Yeah, was it just vibes?
The butts?
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, like, it was like putting you in that lens of like, it's almost a Michael Bay movie, but then it's like, the point is like, you're not really enjoying that aspect though. I don't really feel like it was titillating because like, you're thinking about like Dennis Quaid's greasy fingers. You know what I mean? And it's sort of like, you're like, wow, it just kind of feels gross to be like ogling someone's ass after watching Dennis Quaid, like, you know what I mean? So I think it was kind of the point is to like make that feel off-putting in a way, like make the male gaze feel off-putting. That was me as a male viewer. So
do you have a take on that?
I don't really.
I have very strong opinions.
I will stand alone.
No, I have really strong opinions about this. They force the audience to look at, especially with Sue, like the younger character, who's probably younger than us, the actual actress. So they made us look at her in a way that used the same camera angles, same shot dynamics as other media, that it is, I think, objectively more objectifying.
Yeah.
And more like fetishizing.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to do that, right? They could have like had the same message where she's doing that dance, like dumb dance in the like suit. She's like she's just TikTok energy, but the 70s, which is kind of sick. But they could have shown that without, I think, with a less objectifying lens. Like literally in terms of shot angle, in terms of like the amount of time we looked at her butt, like in terms of all those things. Like I felt gross having to watch that. And not because of the overarching theme necessarily of the movie. I don't know though. So I see your take, but I also think, what if they just didn't make us look at those shots? They proved the point, like they still showed those things happening, but we didn't have to be an audience that was kind of like ingesting that as a spectacle in the same way.
I mean,
do you know what?
I know what you mean. And my take like is that at this level of like, I think it would just be a different film. It would have a different effect. I think what it does is that like it cements you in the world that they're trying to critique. I feel like this film is taking you inside this kind of glossy, media-driven, exploitative like world, and it wants to do that from within. And not like with an outside perspective, but it wants to put you in that world.
Yeah. I don't know if it would have been that different of a movie if they
That's
just
fair.
like didn't have as many close-ups on like her ass, you know?
I'm also
I don't know.
I'm just gonna say I might be a biased party. Because
Dude,
everyone was beautiful. That's all I'll say. But you know that Margaret Qualley's breasts were not real.
I was
Those are
wondering.
not her real
Oh my God,
breasts.
oh my
Those
God,
are
oh my
prosthetic
God.
breasts.
That makes me feel better.
There's a specific credit for like Margaret Qualley's breasts done by like
that's
so-and-so company.
fun.
Interesting.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it could have been something that the actress wanted, but it seems like more like a creative choice to me to be like this is like this like specific beauty ideal that it's serving or something.
Well, she was supposed to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they even say that? Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, they called her that. I also think she really served like modern, like our era beauty.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
she had a butt and like a little gap, and she was like a little pretty ugly, but obviously she's so beautiful and hot.
I definitely have a massive crush on Margaret Qualley.
Yeah. How old is she?
I have no idea.
16.
Okay, we'll look at it. Yeah.
Wait a minute, hold on. I didn't know that.
I like the word you used, though, glossy,
Yeah.
because I feel like that word really defines parts of this movie, specifically that show business part.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you. I don't think that it needed all the butts. And I don't think that you can ever say that there's some big meaning behind it. Maybe the dudes were just like, yeah, more butt shots.
Most likely some guy was like, let's add a couple more butts in there. Yeah.
Right. You know.
Yeah.
She's 30, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not
30,
yeah,
not 15.
You're a great guy. Wow, you're such a good guy. I'm specifically curious if you guys thought the movie was funny.
I would say the funny parts were a lot less frequent than the disturbing parts. You know, like maybe 5% funny,
Uh-huh.
80%
Like
disturbing, or no, 50%, and then you got the whole ridiculous.
I think I just have a messed up sense of humor because I felt like it was like pretty half and half. Like,
Really?
a lot of the moments that were like really grotesque, I feel like they were played for comedy. Like her knee, the whole thing with like she's trying to reset her knee. It's like it's really like cringe inducing because it looks really painful. But you're also like, this is so ridiculous. Like it's kind of funny in a dark way because it's like slapstick. She's just like trying to like fix an old door or something.
Can I tell you guys about my emotional journey?
Please.
With respect to like the comedy and the kind of absurdity in general, and I'm curious about your perspective on it. I used the word journey because she thinks that's an our generation thing, where we're like, oh, I'm on my journey.
We're all on our journeys.
We're actually all on our journeys. So my journey was, the witch finger was my first sign where I was like, this is silly.
Yeah.
This is so silly. Look at this like witch finger.
You'd think she might use a different finger, but she really relied on that witch finger.
They were like, I don't want to show this makeup off. We're going to get our money's worth.
Yeah, she did everything. She opened the peephole witch finger. I knew the premise. It's about like an aging woman or someone who's read as a woman. And that is sensitive to me. And so at first I felt like almost hurt. Like I was like, this is serious. This is a serious thing. And you shouldn't make fun of it with a little witch finger. And then as it went on and got like more and more ridiculous, my thought was, well, this is so absurd. And then I was kind of like, maybe this fear is also absurd. And I think some of it felt like my deepest fears about getting older taken to like an insane extreme that helped me lighten up about it. It kind of helped me like process my aging-based anxieties. And it's okay if this makes you want to like punch me in the throat or something.
Just slightly.
But yeah, that's fine. You know when movies are heavier and you leave the theater feeling bad and you feel bad for like 2 days?
Oh yeah.
I did not feel bad.
I think that's something horror does well, but it also like, it could go either way. Like it could either be like a traumatizing experience where you're like, okay, I'm gonna think about that for the next 3 months, or you're like, wow, I just like processed some heavy shit. I didn't like some of the makeup effects. I thought some of them were great, but when Demi Moore goes like full crone and she's like running around naked with a big like hunchback and everything, I was like, this kind of looks like a person in a suit. I would have liked to see a little less and feel a little bit more of it.
I was just gonna say, I would agree with that totally. That's when it started jumping the shark, when it moved from an old lady to a monster. Yeah. And then she would put clothes on and she didn't really have those monster effects like when you saw her naked. There were a couple transitions like that I thought were really fakey. Like, how did Sue know how to build an escape room and make it all look perfect in a day or whatever that was?
I mean, maybe she did have the neighbor come help her.
Or maybe it's that she had Demi Moore's memories, or Elisabeth's memories, and Elisabeth was also a prepper. You know, like she was like a doomsday prepper. So she had that knowledge.
I think the biggest thing that kind of threw me, and what I've realized after rewatching it, that like the thing I didn't like the most is like there's this repetition of like you are one, respect the week on, week off thing, respect the system, and everything will be fine. And it's like there was never any chance of that happening. Like from the beginning, like they were never gonna work together. Like because they're not the same being at all. Like they're two separate beings. They maybe have the same memories up through like the point at which Sue is born out of Elisabeth.
I was thinking Sue.
Yeah. I was interested in that and like and what their relationship would be like. I feel like it would have had more impact if there was actually some kind of shared consciousness to where like Elisabeth is able to experience what Sue's doing, so she really is living vicariously instead of just watching it on the TV. They opened up that door and they didn't do anything with it. And I was like, oh.
Do you think the movie would have been better if they had?
I think it would have had more emotional impact.
Yeah.
I think for me it was like the spectacle was very entertaining, but like after the first half I was starting to kind of feel like there wasn't a lot of like impact what was happening. I felt a lot of sympathy for Elisabeth, but that's kind of it. Like Sue was just kind of a bad person.
Yes.
But like I would have been nice to see some kind of development there to where like to where there is some like depth to Sue, to where she's like she actually has concern for Elisabeth, and there's some. So it's like when she does choose to say like I'm gonna fuck you over, it's like, oh, that means something because you know that this is you, like this. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So right. What I was hoping, I wanted to see a moment of tenderness in that relationship. It wasn't three-dimensional at all.
She didn't even put a pillow like on the fucking linoleum floor. Yeah, that thing was bothering me the whole time.
I was just gonna say that.
Like, just put a cot there.
I think that could have been a great moment. It's like she's like, being an asshole, but Sue puts a little pillow under Elisabeth's head or something.
Yeah, because I was like, that's so brutal. Like, you're just sleeping on the linoleum floor for 7 days. Like,
a lot of week. At first, in your own blood. The fact that they were totally disconnected, like different people.
Yeah.
Was that meant to have some, like, greater meaning, or was it just like vibes? Like they just had a plot and they didn't they were like, oh. And like same with the You Are One, was it like, ooh, vibes, like they just wanted it to a cool thing to say?
Well, it definitely had vibes.
It definitely had vibes.
This is purely my opinion, my interpretation. The point the director was making is like how brutally we treat the parts of ourselves that we think are like undesirable or we're insecure about, like how brutally we treat those, because when they do finally fight, it's so brutal. It's so fucking brutal. She's just like beating up this old woman and just like throwing her around the room and like breaking her bones, and it's like holy shit. So I think there's something to be said about like self-hatred.
Elisabeth didn't even experience herself as Sue.
Yeah.
Which really begs the question, like, what you doing?
At that point, it was weird because it's not even like it's serving her ego, right? Because it's no one knows that this is her younger self. No one knows that she's anything to do with it. So it's really just like,
so what's the point? Yeah,
that was kind of where I felt like it would make more sense if she were getting more out of it, if she was like actually living vicariously through Sue.
I think it does though get at something like important. Like I think especially women or people socialized as women can get to a place where it's like, I felt this way before. My sole function is to like appease others, mostly men. And I don't matter. Like I will sacrifice myself. And that is like a inherently super dissociative thing.
This is a movie that could be expanded on.
Part 2, baby.
No,
The
it needed to be chopped down.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it could have been made differently. There was a film in the 70s called The Reanimator. Maybe
Oh,
it was
yeah.
in the 50s.
It was the 80s.
Was it the 80s?
Reanimator?
Sure?
Yeah. The one.
And was it similar? Like I can't remember.
Even the one where like the guy like he goes to med school and his roommate is a psycho who's like reanimating dead bodies.
Yeah.
And then like the guy's girlfriend gets kidnapped and the zombie is like trying to like go down on her with a severed head or something.
Yeah.
Wait, is the head on but falling off?
No, the head is in a tray and like, it's like it's a really fucked up scene
Does he
actually.
take the tray head and like
Yes.
he's kind of like
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's really fucked up. It's really funny.
Glad I brought it up.
It's a good movie. I love it. The tone was pretty absurd. Like it was very surreal, and it just kind of got like more and more so. I think specifically like all the male characters were like I don't want to say caricatures because it's like definitely rooted in reality, but like they were like kind of caricatures of like very real behaviors.
Well, I'd say in particular, her boss, who's that Dennis Quaid?
Yeah, the shrimp guy.
He was kind of a caricature.
Oh, yeah.
And also then the way that they filmed it by zooming in on him close and doing stuff like that, I think enhanced that kind of character.
Yeah, they love those wide angles.
I also did wonder if the men were meant to show the viewers at least what the female characters had to choose between. So there's 3 main dudes. There's Harvey the boss. Oh, I'm dressed like one of Harvey's shrimp that he was eating. So there's, aptly named Harvey the boss. There's the neighbor Oliver.
Yeah.
Who's scary and gives like stalker. Like and that's a very real thing. And then there's the nicer guy who I think was a little dumb.
There's like predatory, exploitative, and there's a stalker guy, and then there's just the oblivious like guy that's
Nice
just like, I'm a nice guy, but I actually don't know what the fuck's going on.
Right.
And I'm like oblivious to your life and your problems.
It was just kind of showing that the men aren't going through any of this.
Yeah.
You know, the boss guy, he didn't look great, and he was, the boss.
And they made a point of showing that.
Yeah,
like,
and the nice guy, he just was sort of like a regular guy who'd never had Botox or anything a day in his life, One other thing that really struck me with that, because I've had this happen to me a number of times when I was younger, people would say, "You're so pretty, why don't you smile?" Men would say this. You never ever had a woman say this to you. And it's offensive.
Yeah.
Why did it bother you?
Because I'm sorry, I have furrows in my brow because that's the way my anatomy is, and you don't know if I just found out my mom has cancer or what's going on with me, and it's not my job to make you happy by smiling. All of those things.
Yeah.
It's just terrible.
Yeah.
Guys your age probably wouldn't say that.
Well, they say other shitty things. It's evolved. I mean, I think it's like my beauty is not a thing you just get to like turn on and off.
Right, a present to you.
Yeah,
or something.
it's just it's me. It is what it is. Like if I'm gonna express it, I'll express it. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Expressing it.
I feel like I'm expressing my beauty a little bit.
In fairness to men, I think sometimes they're kind of socially inept and maybe just don't quite know what to say, so they say stupid things like that.
What is the nice guy character's name? We'll call him 10th. No, that makes him seem like he's a 10th grader.
I think of the
Was it
age,
Ralph?
he should just be.
Let's call him
should
Ralph.
just be-
With Ralph, I think he was it was like kind of indicative of that. Like maybe he didn't have as much like exposure to like heavier things. Maybe we don't know, and that lent itself to a certain like social manner. And that's a bigger systemic thing.
But he was also acting like he was still in 10th grade.
Oh, he kind of was.
When he saw her. Right? That's what he was immediately pulled back into that. We're in high school, you're the popular girl.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm stuttering.
Well, That was something I thought was super interesting. The whole sequence where she's like deciding whether or not to go out, and you just see her like slowly, the sort of insecurities slowly building back up. Like that was a really interesting sequence. It was really fascinating to watch that like moment by moment. Like the whole purpose of the men in the movie is to sort of define her by the career that she's been in, or by like the kind of with like object status. And that was kind of how I read it, is that like he was like just like, wow, Elisabeth Sparkle, it's you, you're so beautiful, like la la la. It's like he doesn't know who she is at all.
I have to disagree with that.
Awesome.
Because that was the whole reason why she called him, is because he didn't know her as Elisabeth Sparkle. He knew her as Elizabeth Smith, or whatever her name was. And so she was, as someone who has been out of high school for the same time as Demi Moore has, you feel like you know someone that you knew in 10th grade.
That's a really
as
good
that
point.
person.
That's really good
not
point.
as the person you became. He, of course, because it would be weird to go, Elizabeth Smith, how's it going? And not say, I've
like,
seen,
oh, I know, yeah.
You know, so that's my take on that.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. I never thought of that moment as having to do with him knowing her old self.
Right.
And maybe even her trying to like reconnect
Yes.
with her old self in like pursuing a date
Yeah,
with
exactly.
10th grade guy.
Yeah.
Who's not in 10th grade.
Right.
We just don't know his name.
That's a rich layer.
I have one more question. Harvey, gross Harvey, whose shrimp I am, who's eaten shrimp I am.
You are the
He
shrimp.
mentions, I am the shrimp. He mentions when he's talking to Elisabeth, when he's firing her, he's like, well, when you're 50, well, it all stops at 50. And she's like, what? And he's like, what was that about?
Well, just one possibility is she was 50 and he was basically just ignoring her.
Yeah.
You know, and ignoring her question. It's like,
case in point.
Right.
He's like, it stops at 50. She's like, what? He's like,
exactly. Right.
I mean, basically, I think, he's just like, you have nothing to offer me or my industry anymore because you're 50. In his view.
And his then display of table manners.
Oh my god, yeah.
And then I'm like, that's me going in his mouth. Ow!
It's so gross. A few of my friends had said, well, I've heard that film's super gross, right? And I was kind of like, what does that mean? That scene came on and I said, oh, I get it.
Do you have advice for any people who are getting older, who are watching? That's all of us.
I guess just try to love who you are in the moment. You know, and if you
that.
can't love who you are, maybe like who you are. This is so cliche, but you know, if you move your body and you just do basic things that make you feel good.
Pump it up.
Pump it up.
I have to do that sometimes. I'm like, damn, I feel like shit.
Yeah.
Just go for a walk.
Yeah.
Like, go walk around, like, be like, yeah, I'm capable. I'm an adult.
Yeah.
I can move my little.
I can walk where I want.
Yeah. Thank you. Once again, I'm AJ Amber.
I'm Zane.
And I'm Daisy.
Leave any comments that you want. They can be mean, as long as they're comments. We'll take it. Like and subscribe. Do you guys want to point down so they know where?
Yeah, it's right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Had a whole lot of hoes back then.
Oh, do I have sauce in my face?
That shit was not enough. That shit was not enough. Did a whole lot of stunt back
Oh
then.
my god. Let me
That
take
shit was
care
not
of it.
enough.
Are you really? You got it.
That shit
Okay.
was not
I believe in
enough.
you.
That shit was not enough.
Look at my ball, man. I'm dripping in gold.